Thank you. Thank you, Louise, and hello everyone and welcome to OTF Connect. I would like to thank each of you for giving of your own time to join us tonight. I'm Surya Skarhan. I'm the facilitator and coordinator for the OTF Professional Development Project. It's my pleasure to welcome back Christina Janjeski, who will be facilitating tonight's session. Christina has facilitated several very effective webinars for OTF Connect over the last 2 years, and it's a pleasure to have Christina back. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you, Surya.
I'll just jump in again here and say, here's our map of Ontario. So with that little text tool that we just practiced with, you just grab that tool again and type in somewhere on the map the name of the town or city that you're joining us from tonight. And if you have any trouble with the tool, just go ahead and put it in the chat box. Awesome. Red Rock. Is Red Rock really that far north? Whoever put Red Rock?
Jenny, this is Jenny, and I'm the one from Red Rock. It's right on the northernmost tip of Lake Superior. I have it a little more north than it's supposed to be.
Wow, wonderful. Oh, we are so glad that you are here tonight. Thank you very much. And OTF certainly likes to know whereabouts teachers are that access these sessions. So, Christina, I will send it back over to you now. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so glad you could join us on this chilly evening, and I know it's tough to give up your time. We're all so busy with, never mind school, but family and everything that comes with teaching. So, you know, it's always the marking that comes home too and all that good stuff. So thank you so much for coming out, and I hope you leave here with some great tools tonight that you can use immediately or at least think about and maybe implement in the next little while. So my name is Christina Janjeski Rodney, and I teach with the Hamilton Wentworth Catholic District School Board. I've been teaching with Hamilton Wentworth for 8 years, and before that I taught ESL to adults, and I just love teaching, like English, of course. And so tonight what I hope you walk away with are some tools that will liven up literacy and make student learning you know, a bit more, you know, palatable for students and more fun, of course. That's what we always want to do, is get them on board by making it fun. So what we do have tonight is I've created a Google Doc for you, and in the Google Doc you'll find all the links to all the samples that I show, and also included in that are lesson plans. There's some rubrics in there, and you can go back and view those at any time. So I will not take that down. That will be there for as long as Google Drive exists, I guess. So everything is there for you. And if you ever have any questions, you can also feel free to email me or send me a message on Twitter, and I'd be happy to talk to you about anything that we've discussed tonight. So I'm going to start with what looks to be maybe a normal picture of me with my dogs, but I'm using this picture to kind of set the context for us tonight and talk about, you know, the idea of comfort level. So like our students tackling their issues in literacy, they can be scared, and our lessons will not always maybe appeal to them or go the way that we expect them to. Just like the seemingly benign photo, I'm taking a picture with Santa. We did this over the weekend for the SPCA to raise money for the SPCA. Our students, much like my 150-pound dog Huxley on the right side, will be afraid, and they will have issues with when it comes to literacy or when it comes to something new. So like my dog, who was terrified of Santa, that's the closest I could get him to Santa. I was not supposed to be in this picture, by the way. You can tell by my stunning outfit there and the hair on my pants. That really, it's really about facing our fears sometimes, not just for the kids, but for teachers. And in that, you know, hoping we can make this a little bit easier for our students, just as I try to make it easier for Huxley to, you know, withstand being in this photo with poor Santa, who looks a little nervous here about this dog. But all in all, it worked out well, and what I hope tonight is that you walk away with some things that will work out well for you as well. So just really quickly, I think it's important that we look at literacy in a different way. You know, we think of it traditionally as pen and paper, reading and writing, but I think it's something that's always dynamic. It's extremely reflective of what's going on in our society, and it's always changing. You know, the tools change, but the fundamentals don't change. But it's all about, you know, adapting and changing with what's going on in our society. And so I think it's important maybe that a more effective definition includes the idea of just that ability to communicate meaning through these different tools and different socially contextual symbols. So how we do that for our students is definitely not what we did when we were young, and it's not going to be the same as when, you know, 20 years from now. It's always changing, but it's, you know, trying to find what works and, you know, trying to make it appealing to our students. I think that's what I'm always after, is trying to get something that appeals to them without it being too risky, because they don't want to take a lot of risk, and we as teachers are probably always fearful of, you know, how am I going to do this? Is it going to work? What happens if it fails in front of the class? So, you know, trying to find some tools that I think really work are ones that you can go to and use quite often. So where did this come from? I think that I've always noticed, and more so lately, that students really do need better opportunities to showcase their understanding. It's not always, you know, a lot of kids shy away from the pen and paper. They're not going to give you a lot of written output. And so if they can use a tool that's not high risk, if it's low risk, and it really has a wow factor, they love the, you know, the wow factor of the final product, then it gets them hooked. And of course, that means that they are, you know, engaging in literacy. And that's what we want, not necessarily, you know, screaming literacy to them because they don't want to hear that word, but they're doing it without having to be forced to do it, hopefully. So what you'll get tonight is what has worked in different classrooms that I've been in, tech tools that the students do love and that after talking with them after we've done projects, because you know, maybe I think it works and they hate it, but we've had lots of discussion about what they like. So that's what I'm going to share with you. I have the class projects for you, so you can walk away with those and use those. And these are all lessons based around what I think is most important, tools that are free and accessible to everyone. So you don't have to have the latest computer or tablet. They don't have to have these things at home. Everything can be done from school with one computer, or if you have a class lab. So let's jump right in. And I'm starting with something very basic that then becomes what I like to call like an online gallery, an art gallery. So really low risk, something you can do is just grab some Post-it notes. And what I had the students do here is try to link an important character trait. We were studying the novel Crab in this example in my grade 12 college class. And I wanted them to start thinking about character traits because Crab's character evolves in this novel. And he's a young teenager, it's a great story, who runs away from home and finds himself. It's a coming-of-age story. So in this activity, I just had them grab a Post-it, choose a trait. I had a big list of traits on the board, and they had to illustrate it. So it was low risk, and then that became part of a way to transition to the computer. So you don't have to have computers to start off, but this really simple thing then leads to an online sticky note wall. So we're going to go from real life to virtual. And I'll just show you what that looks like. So I like to use things like Flickr because I think it's a great way to look at your class. You can make a class gallery and always go back and look at what you did over the year or over the semester, depending on what you're teaching. And students can be proud of the work that they did. So I think it's really great because we all walk around with basically scanners in our pockets when we have our phones, that it's really nice to be able to take these pictures and put them in a virtual space where students can look at it. Because as you know, I'm sure we're all familiar with chart paper gets tossed in the garbage, projects get, you know, put aside or thrown out, and this is a way to keep those for, you know, a longer period of time, something that kids can look back at and see where they've come from and where they're going. So this is a tool that I've talked about before, and I'm absolutely in love with this tool. It's very straightforward. Very nice and easy to use, but I'm wondering if people with maybe a check mark can show if you've used Padlet before, which used to be called Wall Wisher. It's a sticky note wall. So if you can, just using your check mark tool, let me know if you've used Padlet before. I can see that Jenny has, not Jessica and not Jeff. Okay, so what I'd like to be able to do is walk you through that. We will be doing something with Padlet in just a second, so everyone can give it a shot. It's so easy and straightforward, and it's absolutely wonderful. Jenny, I'm wondering if you'd like to share either in the chat or with your mic what you've used Padlet for.
I was doing a presentation once. I've only used it really once, but I was doing a presentation and I had it was kind of basically like a spot to do exit cards. So it was a place where people could leave comments or questions that they wanted me to get back to them about.
Thank you so much. That's a great idea, and I think you could use that with the students too, right? Because we like to do exit cards with the students, so fantastic for whether we're with our peers or with students. Thank you so much. I have used it before in the past for different things, but this year and last year, I started using it a lot for things that were difficult for students to start getting into or engaging with. And I started with, I'll give you a sample here, the Hunger Games, which, we want to get away from that idea of, the typical content questions, giving them a list of questions, what happened here. And what I did instead was I gave each group an area of the novel to focus at. For example, the reaping that happens at the beginning of the novel. One group took over this task and they gave us all the definitions, as you can see here, of what happens in the reaping. So suddenly I had kids grabbing quotations, flipping through, skimming and scanning their text, which is like pulling teeth sometimes when you're just asking them content questions, and they were creating a wall with the Post-it notes that they were really proud of. And it happens really quickly, and it does not take any amount of skill in terms of computer, tech savviness. They just can drag and drop, copy and paste, and grab photos. It's really that simple. They don't have to have the account. I set the wall up in advance for them. And setting up a wall is super easy. So you can see that the final product, I don't even know if this was our final product at the time, but it was so quick for them to do, and they were so proud to share what they had done. This then came in handy for when we had our final unit test. Students could go back and review all the concepts in the novel by just looking at the pages online. And this is much more useful than a paper copy, because a lot of students would not take notes if you were traditionally copying notes, let's say. They were now interacting with a virtual space. Here's another sample. I have taught, and I do teach right now, 3U English, and often people think, oh, well, if the student is in, the academic stream, they're already motivated. But I always find that Shakespeare is terrifying for most students, and they would not study this if they didn't have to. So when using Padlet, all of a sudden, I had a really eye-opening experience where I saw, how students thought, and they found and attached more meaning to the novel, or sorry, to the play, rather, because I was asking them to just find a meaningful quote from each act or each scene and pair it with a visual, and suddenly the play came to life in a way for the students that it hadn't before. And when we reviewed for the test, they said, Miss, that was such a great way for me to study and to remember the most important quotations. And it was just, a very simple way to track that without them having to, say, take copious notes. They could then interact with that wall and see what their peers had posted. And a lot of them would actually go back and forth checking, what did they put up, what's up next. And so they were actually interacting with the play more than they would have had I given them questions. So with that being said, I think we should try it out. And with only a very few people here tonight, it's easy to do that. So if we could have you guys try this out. I've set up a wall for us, and I think would be great is if, even after tonight, if you want to post things there, if you want to share ideas, if you'd like to connect, we can do that on the wall. But what you could do right now is grab a sticky note from the wall and suggest a way in which you might use this tool in your classroom. So if you want to try that right now, if you want to click on the link in the chat, thank you, Louise, and all you have to do is double click on the wall and it will open a new post-it for you. And then you can also try grabbing an image. And you can do that by clicking on the little link. So I will see if I can take you on a web tour here. If it will let me take you there. My computer will cooperate with me right now. And if you can just, oh, all right, it's not going to let me do that. If you can just let me know when you have, or if you have been able to post to the wall, and I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. Okay, so it looks like people are working away here. And as you're doing that, hopefully you can see the wall, I hope, on our web tour here. I see that Jenny wrote that there's a teacher in our school who uses Padlet as her class website. That's a really neat idea. I wonder if she has, I guess it just keeps streaming for her, if she has multiple walls or not. I'm not sure. Is there any, could you speak to that at all, Jenny?
She has one wall, and what she does is she puts like a sticky note. She has 4 columns. So the first column, I think, is sort of things that are general to all 3 of her classes, and then she has a column for each of her classes. So the sticky note at the top has the course code, and then below it she posts, you know, a sticky note with a link to a place where they can practice whatever topic they're covering in math. Links to YouTube videos that review what they're doing in math, so that if students are struggling, they can hear more about it and try and learn it in a different way, upcoming test dates or whatever it is that's important. So she just uses one Padlet, and she changes it all the time. So once they're finished a topic, she takes those things down and starts putting new things up.
What a great idea. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's a wonderful way to use it. There's just so many ways, and I like how Jeff even suggested here, having students post sample math questions, yeah, and they can answer them. So that's a great thing. And you, as the creator of the wall, can always, if they make a mistake or if there's something wrong, they can go in and delete. You can easily delete the notes or even edit them for them, so they don't have to restart their post-it. The little pencil comes up, I don't know if you noticed, in the right-hand corner of your sticky note. And so it's really, really, I think it's really low risk, but has a really beautiful end product and has limitless possibilities, I think. So I will leave that wall up, and I'm hoping we're going to go back to that later on and think about other ways we can use this when we get a chance to. So thank you so much for participating in that. And what's nice is, like I said, you can add the images, and the images can be very powerful when you pair any kind of text with an image, and I really try to reinforce that with my classes. It helps with, obviously, retention of facts and ideas. As we know, pairing the visual is more effective than just words. So I wanted to ask if how many people have a Google account here. So if you don't mind indicating with a green check mark if you have one and the X if you do not, I would love to hear from you at this time. Okay, so Jenny does have an account. And I'm wondering, Jenny, if I can ask, is your school a Google school? Do all your students have Google accounts?
No, we're not.
Thank you. Neither is my school. I just is, in terms of with my students, I'm always, I guess you could say I'm forcing them, but I'm always suggesting to them that they have a Google account. Right now, because I'm working with a lot of senior students, I try to get them to, at the beginning of the semester, create an account that is professional, so that actually uses their first name, last initial, or first and last name, and isn't any of these strange accounts like Batman53, because putting that on a resume just isn't going to look good. So I really want them to have an account that they can be proud of and work from. So if people are game for it, what I'd love to do is have you set up a Google account right now or log into your account. And it is fairly quickly or easy, to do that. If you just go to a Google search page right now in your browser, and in the right-hand corner it says sign up. If this is taking too long, then I can go on and show you what we'd be doing, because the tools that I'm going to show you next, all the different tools, are right from Google, and you can have them in your Google account and have access to them all the time. So I think it's a really worthwhile activity if you'd like to do that now. And oh, Louise has a question, so I'll stop. And
yeah, I was just going to ask Christina, so the Google document that you shared all the resources for tonight's session in, do they need to have a Google account in order to view it, or do you have that document set for completely public viewing with just as long as you have a URL?
That document is completely public as long as you have the URL. And I have no problem if anybody wants to share that with colleagues. I've had people ask me that before, so if you do want to use any of the resources on there, please feel free. I also have permission from the students to share their work, but you don't have to have a Google account to do that. I just think if you want to try out the tools tonight, then having this account will be really easy. It'll be an easy way to do that. So if everyone's game, maybe Louise, if you want to put a few minutes on the timer, then we can get everyone to set up their account or log into their existing account.
And in fact, Jeff and Jessica have just realized, I think, when they got to that step, that they do indeed have Google accounts.
Fantastic. Okay, so everyone has an account. This just makes the process much simpler. Okay, great. So then is everyone logged into their account right now? If you can just give me a check mark. Oh, Louise, did you have a question? Oh, no, you've got a check mark. Okay. So everyone is logged into their account. Wonderful. Okay. So I'm going to keep moving forward here. So I'm going to talk to you about an app right now called Mindmeister. And can you indicate, I get you to use the check marks a lot here, if you have used this tool before or heard of it? So if you can just indicate with a check mark now, that would be wonderful. Okay, great. So this is a fantastic tool, and again, as I mentioned before, this is free. So there are a few limitations. You get only 3 mind maps per account if you don't want to pay. And so I always tell the kids, just delete them if you don't need them anymore. And that's a really good thing. So Mindmeister is pretty amazing in that not only is it a mind mapping tool, but it also allows you to collaborate. You can collaborate with other students if you share the link with them. Another beautiful thing is that it's stored in the cloud. They always have access from home or from school. And there's a lot of beautiful pre-made templates, so they don't have to do any fidgeting. They can just pick the template they want, just like if you're doing a PowerPoint, and you can away you go. So it's really nice that way. So this is a sample of what I had the students do. As we were studying the novel Crab, often we might have students do a character sketch or describe the character in a paragraph, pick 3 traits, something to that effect. So often that's like pulling teeth. It's really hard to get them to sit down and do that work. But what I did was I was able to get them to add this app to their account and log into Mindmeister. Very simple from your Google account. And they started creating their mind map right on the page. And they never had to put pen to paper, but they were writing all the same. So what I asked them to do was choose 5 traits to describe the character. And we tracked them as we went through the novel. And they had to then choose a meaningful image to go with a meaningful quote that illustrated that trait. And I took it a step further and had them explain the significance of that. So I think, if you could probably already see where I'm going with this, I ended up having them, they're basically writing the paragraph without doing the writing of the paragraph. So what came out of this, if you look at the sample here, is a lot of writing without them realizing it. But they were so excited about, pairing it with a visual, how it looked on the page, that suddenly you have them doing a lot without them. I'm not trying to, trick them necessarily, but they are doing something that they're proud of. And then it translated into the writing piece, which we took from there. And it was so easy for them to do that writing using this simple mind map. So obviously you get the kid who might be, thinking, oh gosh, please don't make me write this paragraph or essay, and then you've got lots in front of them and they have so much to go from. So what I would like to do is let you play a little bit, but I'll show you a sample if I could. We will try again here in our web tour of what that looks like. And I'm going to try to get this going for you. So let's see if this will load for us. So what I'm going to show you is very basic. It's my sample that I just kind of add to as I talk to them. And there it is. Hopefully you can see this. Can everyone see that on their screen? If you don't mind, just giving me a green check mark so that I know that you can see it. Jeff is good. Jenny can't see it. I wonder if there's a delay in your browser at all. And Jessica's good. Serious, thank you. Has it resolved itself at all, Jenny? If not, Jenny, I'll drop the link into the chat there. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Jenny.
No, I was just going to say I was going to try and follow the instructions to fix the problem. But if you drop it into the chat, then I'll just click to it from there. That's probably easier.
Okay, so I dropped it in there. If you look at the map that's on the screen right now, if I click in the space, and I'm not sure if it's going to let me even do that from here, but you can see the little branches that get added on to the mind map. So every time you click or add, there's a little plus sign at the top of the screen that will let you add a branch, and you can either add text or visuals. And what's really nice is the kids can do a search for a visual right within the app. So they don't have to go out onto a new page. They can actually search a keyword and it will give them, it will actually spit out images and they can choose from there. So it's really nice that it doesn't make it too complicated or too cumbersome. It's very easy to create. So what I'd love to do is see if you can try to add this right now to your Google account. And you simply do that by clicking the top of your toolbar and where it says More in your Google account. And you go into the Chrome store and you search for Mindmeister. It's this pink icon will come up for you here. And I'll just try to see if I can, you would just then, it will add to your Google Drive, which I can show you in a tour. And when you click on the Create button, it's already there. So once you've added the app, it's with you all the time. So if you would like to give this a shot, I think you'll really like this tool. And it's, like I said, it's low risk. Kids will love it. So if we want to take a few minutes right now to try to add that to our Google Drive, I'll see if I can get a web tour going for you on how to do that, where that is. So if everyone is game, do you want to give that a shot and try to get to the Google Chrome store to add your app, which is Mindmeister. Thank you, Louise, for the link there. Hey, it's not going to let me tour, is it? Okay. If you get stuck, let me know, or if you've had success, if you can also let me know with either green check mark or typing into the chat box. Yes, Louise, absolutely. It's great because with Google, I love Google. I should work for Google, I think, because I keep selling them. But Google, you know, you can have everything stored there, and it's easy for the kids to be able to just go to their Google Drive and find their map. There's never any, you know, USBs to be used or hard drives. They don't have to go to My Documents. Everything is always in the cloud.
And so easily shared from there too.
Yes, because actually what I didn't mention is I have all my students share their work with me on Edmodo. In my classroom I use Edmodo as our platform. Some people in our school use the D2L platform, but I'm using Edmodo. I just like the ease of use and the look of it. Of course it looks like Facebook, so the kids are a little bit more apt to use it. And then they're able to just drag and drop their assignments by copying the link into Edmodo. So I have all their mind maps in one spot. Okay, I'll get out of the web tour so you can see it. If you've added it to your drive or if you've gone through the mindmeister.com page, you can try playing with it by creating a new map. So I'd love for you to actually try it out a little. And I think it's all about play tonight. If you can actually get to use it and experiment, then you're more apt to use it in your classroom and be a little bit more comfortable. Have people had a chance to try one out, just to open up a new mind map, a blank one? Great, Jeff. Thank you. Just let me know too, yeah, how it's going. Thank you, Jenny. Glad to hear things are going well. Hopefully you got to see all the different templates too that you could pick from. As a free user, there's so many options, and that's what I love. It's all about the free. I'm wondering too what people think in terms of other uses. I'm looking at, of course, from an English perspective, teaching high school English. But you know, could you use this for a science experiment? Let's say you know, gathering your data or collecting data. Could you use this if you're looking at Jeff in terms of French? Is there anything that comes to mind as how you could use this or apply this? A vocabulary map, yeah, absolutely. I think there's so many, you know, ways that they could use this just to gather information or brainstorm a topic anywhere, like if they're just starting a project and where to go from there. It's really nice to use this rather than just, you know, your basic brainstorm sheet, right? This becomes interactive. They can also drop URLs into these, and there's other applications here. It doesn't just have to be pictures. So it's really nice that they can do it with such ease. I think you could too, if you really want to, use it in a presentation. So if people are good, I will move on to the next one. Oh, yes, and most of the people can edit. Okay, so I think if we're good, I'm going to move on to the next tool. So what also came of this is at the beginning of the semester, I have students do a project called All About Me. And some people, or most people, might have heard of Prezi. So if you can just indicate whether you're familiar with Prezi or not with a check mark, that would be wonderful. Okay, so everyone has heard of it, maybe not used it. Jeff has not used it. What I think, I love Prezi, but the problem is that there's a way to Prezi badly or poorly, I guess, and if you can become seasick when using Prezi. Some of my colleagues have said, oh, you know, a student did a Prezi and it was just, oh, I felt seasick when I was doing it. But I think what the problem is that you need to be able to use the tool properly and not get too carried away with the pattern where things go in a Prezi. So I will show you a sample of one, and I think Prezi can become a lovely tool for mind mapping in a basic form, but it can also be a great presentation tool that can replace PowerPoint if done well. But I think it's one of those things when I've talked to students, Prezi is great for, I think, more right brain people, if you want to see more of the creativity aspect in terms of what the final product looks like on a bigger scale, where I think PowerPoint is more left brain logical. That's just my observation. And a lot of students, I find the ones that are more logical, scientific, mathematical go to PowerPoint, and the artistic, more kind of right brain thinkers go for the Prezi because they like what they can do with Prezi, that it's not so linear. So I'm going to show you some, and I think it's a great tool to use if done well. There's tons of tutorials on Prezi on their website. They walk you through it. There's lots of samples so you can see what a good one looks like. There's really endless possibilities with Prezi. And I have the students at the beginning of the year do an All About Me Prezi so I can get to know them. And it's just a neat way for them to tell me some things about themselves, and I give them criteria. I've given you this lesson on the Google Doc and also a sample. And I think it's really a neat tool that they can then use and put in their toolkit when they come to presenting. And you can add YouTube videos into it. You can add a lot of content into it. It's really, really neat. So I'll show you what that looks like. And this is just a different version of what you looked at on Mindmeister. The students had a choice. I love to give them choice. There's your VIPs. They can either use Prezi or they can use Mindmeister. And some of the students really liked Prezi because they had used it in the All About Me activity. So they did the same thing with the crab character mind map. They used Prezi instead. So this one here is a student who, I will just give you a little background. He struggles a lot with writing and organizing his ideas. He does have an IEP And when it comes to pen and paper, he gets discouraged, he scribbles, does it quickly, and it's done. But when he did this, it was just a whole different ballgame. And when I told him, I said, do you mind if I share your work with some teachers? His reaction, he couldn't believe it. So there was this pride that he had in his work and something that he could share. And, it wasn't there on paper. Like, he is the first one to stick something in his binder and tuck it away and never see it again. But here he was actually very proud of the product that he created. And I was so happy to see he was so comfortable so quickly, because he's not really, not super tech savvy. I think he's got a good level of comfort, but he was able to create this. And again, it's the same thing I wanted him to do on paper, but it just had that element that just a little bit more added to it. So if you'd like to take a look at it, I'm not going to even try to do the web tour. I think that this is that Louise has given us the URL here, so I will try to view it here. So if you'd like to click on it and check it out, you should be able to. Yep, this is the right one. So thank you so much, Louise. And you can just, if you click through it, you can see where it takes you. There's arrows at the bottom of the Prezi once it loads, and you'll be able to click through and it'll take you through the character traits. I think it can make you seasick when you're looking at it just clicking through it quickly, but if you were presenting this in front of a class, you would have talking in between and time for people to think and look at each slide. So it becomes less of that seasick feeling. You would never click through it so quickly as you do right now as you're just kind of viewing it. And as Louisa said, it's the rotations. I try to get them away from the rotations. I say, if you don't need it, please don't do it. So that's a lesson that we go through on how to Prezi well. Just like doing a good PowerPoint that shouldn't be text heavy, there also are rules to doing a good Prezi, and that's something I establish with them as we go through it. So if you've had a chance to view it, can you just indicate that with a check mark? Okay, great. So that's a scaled down version of what you can do with Prezi. There really are a lot of possibilities, and this is just one example that I've used in my classes, but I think it's a nice way to do a mind map. It's just an alternative version. And Louise has asked if he's chosen these images. He did choose all these images by himself, this was completely on his own. I had nothing to do with any of it. And he chose the character traits and quotes. So you can see how it also incorporates that critical thinking piece. They have to decide what works and with the character traits. So there's a lot going on here. It's not just a simple activity. There is a lot going on. So in the same again with Google, I like to talk about Google presentations, and the presentation that I'm showing today is actually a Google presentation, and I think I provided you with the presentation link, I hope, to this whole slideshow, so you can go back and look at it. But I like to offer this as an alternative to PowerPoint because, again, I like to go back to that equity piece where students may not have access to PowerPoint or the latest version. They might not have even Keynote, Mac version, whatever it is. So this allows them to always have access, and it's absolutely free, and you can create stunning presentations in Google. There's nothing here, I think, that you need more than what Google has, because really transitions, when things fly in, text flies in or fades out, it's not necessary all the time. It doesn't actually really add to the content. If the presentation is done well, you don't need all those things. And Google does have a lot of features in their Google presentation. So what I did with my students to get them used to Google presentations, I had them create, and they could do this in pairs or by themselves, an analysis of a song that they liked. And this was paired with, we had read in our textbook, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. So if you're wondering where some of the stuff comes from in here, that's what they had to make a connection with at the end of their slideshow. But because I know that my students are always listening to music, I have to tell them to put their earbuds away or put their iPods away, I thought, why not have them analyze a song that relates to them. So they could choose any song that they wanted, but what they had to do was analyze how that fit a teen problem, a teen issue, and then pair it with the 7 habits of highly effective teens. They had to choose one habit and see where the problem came. Was it with the teen? Was it with society? Was it with parents? And then how students could, or teens could, resolve that issue by using the 7 effective habits. So it was high interest because they got choice. They picked the song. It was what they loved, but it was low risk in that they were doing, I gave them a very basic structure of what they had to put in the slideshow, and then they presented it to the class. We got to hear the music they liked because they dropped in the music right into the presentation, and then they got to analyze just a few lines. I didn't make it a huge thing. They had to pick 4 separate lines and analyze those 4 lines in 4 different slides. So really, it had a huge impact, and they loved sharing their final product. So what you have is that it incorporates writing, listening, oral communication, media literacy, and critical thinking. So they have to listen to each other, work together, listen to the song, and listen for meaning. So they had to be able to do that. There's lots of making connections here. So, thank you, Louise. Amazing. So Louise has dropped in the 7 habits there of highly effective teens. And what I like is that they always have access to this. When you have Google presentations, they don't have to be stuck on a computer. And they can easily, what I love, the bottom line there, is that they can share and they can collaborate. So they had to share the link, and both partners had to work on the presentation side by side. So it's not that one person was doing the typing and the other one was trying to figure out what to do with their time. They were both editing slides at the same time, because with Google Docs, you can share everything and edit in real time. So actually, I haven't even asked, how many people have used Google presentations in their classroom? If you could just indicate with a check mark. Does anyone want to share the ways in which they used it? So I see that Jeff and Jenny both indicated that they had.
Well, I don't really have a classroom, but my board is doing what I call a mini MOOC right now. And last night I did a presentation online to some other teachers about how Pinterest works for educators, and a couple other social bookmarking sites as well. So I would just use it myself, but then I was able to share it by giving the link to the other participants so that they could then click on the links that I had in the presentation to all the resources that would help them.
Okay, so has anyone done editing with it? Like where you edit with another colleague or with students editing with students? Oh, okay, and that's where I think it's amazing. When group work can become a huge problem because some people are not doing the work, or one person has to do the typing. So if you have access sometimes, and that doesn't have to be all the time, to computer lab, then partners can sit side by side and share the work really equally, because they're actually creating the slides and adding to the slideshow at the same time. So there's not that lag in terms of participation. Thank you, Louise. So yeah, Google presentations, it's also part of that, your Google Suite there. And it's right in that when you create, and you click create, you would just choose presentation. So I just have a sample of one of the slides from one of the groups. These 2 boys always amaze me. They both of them have some issues that they struggle with, but when it came to this, they just loved it. They thrived when they were doing this presentation, and they chose a Katy Perry song because they love Katy Perry, and they chose the song Firework because they found that it really had a nice connection to teenagers. And so when they started editing and analyzing, you can see that they took the backgrounds, they took control of all the backgrounds. I do have this sample for you online, and all of the backgrounds became images of fireworks, of course. And it's really powerful. I think they did a really nice job. It's not too busy, I think, because they've made the text, they've blocked the text over the pictures and indicated what is happening here. So, 2 boys that seemingly have issues with writing are suddenly doing a lot of writing once again. and it really was incredible. And we voted on which ones we liked the best, and they were in the top 3. Their classmates actually voted them one of the top 3 presentations. If everyone's okay with that, I'd like to move on to Piktochart. Oh, sorry, I saw that Louise mentioned, that's wonderful. I do like to give the students an opportunity to analyze what they see so that they can say, oh, I really like that about the presentation, or that's something I would use in my presentation. So we always do a little critique, and it's always positive. So, what did you like about, different presentations? And I think it's always wonderful when students can get feedback on their work. So we do like a little awards, like we do like a mini Oscar kind of thing, and there was a top 3 for the lyric analysis. And then when I show you the videos later, we also had the Oscar for best video when we do WeVideo. So I think it's always fun for them. They like to it just levels up, there's a little bit of competition there, and they like that. So I'm wondering if people have heard of Piktochart, and if you could just maybe give a green check mark or an X if you have or have not heard of it. Okay, so no one has heard of it. All right, another wonderful tool, and guess what? You can use your Google account to log into Piktochart, which is something that I love. But Piktochart is an infographic, and once again, here's that literacy piece. They're not just writing, but they're using visuals here, and they have to be able to create that infographic. So always pairing just enough text with enough visual. So it's a tool that I just discovered this year, and I love it. There is a lot that is free. You can, of course, pay for more templates, but there's really no need. And this is, it's not necessarily a Google app, but it's just linked to Google. If you can sign in with your Google account. So what I did was, again, always trying to appeal to what they're doing and what they're interested in now. This became a how-to activity. It was kind of like procedural writing. And so I tried to connect it to what teens love, and they love watching how-to videos and creating them. I'm sure some of you have seen the video of that poor girl who burns her hair off when she tries to do a how-to on how to use a hair wand. She ended up on Ellen because of it, so it worked out pretty well for her. But students just seem to thrive on these YouTube videos. They love to make them and to learn from them online. So there's so many out there, and so what I had them do was create a Piktochart, which would later lead into our how-to video, but I didn't tell them that at the time. I wanted them to be able to use this later, so we created an infographic first on how to something, and they had to choose. So I have a sample here, and I have a sample link for you if you want to take a look at my sample. I just created, of course, something that I know, which is essay writing, so I just quickly tried one out for the students so they could reference what I was looking for. And my criteria was they had to have 5 steps. So whatever they told me they had to do in about 5 steps. If there were more, that's okay, but I wanted it to be something that took about 5 steps, because then you can easily see how they could be like, oh, 1, 2, done, or it's 1 step. So I wanted them to have to tell me at least the 5 steps that were involved in creating whatever it is that I was going to do, or how to do whatever it is that they were teaching me how to do. So see if I can take you to my sample here. Oh, and Louise has already put that in the chart. I will try to also do a web tour. We'll cross our fingers here and see what happens. And if you scroll down, you can see all the steps that are in there. So really simple to again, drag and drop. The templates are there. Oh, thank you, Jeff. This is my attempt at my first Piktochart. But you can see how they can just drag and drop information, and all of this stuff was in there. When you click on the tools, once you're in the Piktochart, on the left side, you just click on if you need graphics, and then it will expand for you, and you can search within the app. So you don't have to go outside again of the app to find anything. Everything is there. And you can play with fonts. It does get tricky sometimes, but it's just playing with it. It takes some time to get a little bit used to it, but it has great products, and you can print these. And what was nice was I was able to print them and put them up in the class. Whether they're in color or black and white, they're really effective, and they're also easily shared on a website if you have a class website, or you could use these, I'm sure, for your school if you want to advertise something. There's lots of great uses for this. I'm just wondering too if anyone would like to share any ideas or thoughts about how we could use this in your classroom. Jeff has asked if it's collaborative. I did not notice that it was collaborative, no, unfortunately. So does anyone have any thoughts on how we might use this tool or what you might like to use it for? Okay, so Louise and Jeff are typing, so I'll give you a moment there. As you're maybe pondering that, I think it's worth trying out. So it's not collaborative, but you could definitely, yeah, there's so many different ways that you could have students work, I think, together on it if you wanted. One person could be in charge of what the information is while the other person is actually doing the work on the computer. I see that Jeff has said reading summaries, Louise has said instruction sets, sequencing. So what I have here is a sample from a grade 12 student who he definitely has a tough time with concentration, and he hates computers, or he tells me he hates computers. And I've included his sample, and I think it's really neat because this is something that he did in the summertime. This was his summer job, was putting up fences, and this is actually a picture of one of the fences that he did. And he, again, this is another example of a student who, when I was asked him if I could share it, he was shocked because he thought, well, I'm not computer savvy. I don't think it's that good. But he said, if you want to share it, that's fine. And he was actually happy to have me share it. So I thought it was pretty impressive that he was able to do all of this. And it is very much a step-by-step format. So as Jeff has mentioned, yeah, you can choose the numbers, you put in the numbers, but the space is already created for you. And you can make the spaces bigger or larger or take stuff out of the template. There's a lot of choice there as to how you want it to look, but you can just follow the template if you wish. I had them add in the numbers of their steps. Those numbers were not there yet. So if people are game for it, you can give this a test, and all you have to do is go to piktochart.com and click on Try It for Free, and you have the option of signing in with your Google account. So I can give you a couple minutes to go ahead and give that a shot if you'd like. Jessica, I love that idea too. Of we just did some speeches in our class as well, and that would be a nice graphic to go with it on how the how-to part. That'd be really neat. So Jeff has asked, is there a way to get it to show up in Google Docs? Not that I'm aware of, Jeff, but you can actually save. There's different ways you can save the Piktochart. You can also save it as a JPEG, or you can save it as a PDF. So I wonder if you saved it as a PDF, then you could upload it to your Google Drive. That might be a possibility. I haven't tried that because I had the students share the link with me on Edmodo. So we never did actually go past sharing it on Edmodo. They had it there. So it's just that you're using your Google information to access Piktochart, but yeah, it's definitely not linked up with Google Drive. Okay, so did people have a chance to play? Do you want to share what your experience was like by typing in the chat, or if anyone wants to grab the mic, that would be great. I see that Jenny is typing. I'll just wait for a moment there. I don't know if you want to grab the mic, Jenny, or if you would like to talk about what your experience was like. Yeah, this could be a really neat tool for even creating like advertisements, I think, or maybe something that's taking place at your school. You could have students use this for announcements and things. It would be really neat. And it's something that you can share easily on different sites or in social media and things like that. So I think there's a lot of possibility here for Piktochart in your classroom. So I'm going to move on to the last tool of the night, which is video creation. And I know this is sometimes an area where people are a little bit leery to dive into, but it's really neat for, I mean, so many things, but it can really showcase what students have learned when you're, studying something, whatever unit it is. And it really does, of course, appeal to its visual literacy. But there's so much more going on here when you're creating a video. And I'm, of course, going to go again to Google because I was just amazed when I found this last year. I think it came out last year, but this is another Google app which is free, and you can create up to 15 minutes of video for free. And this software is just incredible. It gives you the power of a very expensive software tool at your fingertips for free, and of course in the cloud. So you don't have to have things like iMovie or Movie Maker. It is absolutely 100% free, and you can again collaborate with your peers. So you can both be editing. That's, I guess, the wee bit that they're talking about there. So I started exploring this with several classes. Some of them did this with a book pitch. They had to pitch a book that had not been made into a movie. This can be used for book trailers to sell a book to people, or the popularity of the book. We use that in grade 10 as a media piece. Could also be used as just creating a movie trailer in general. You can just use this for slideshows with pictures because it's easy to put music with the video, with the slides, and you can upload your video quite easily from different sites. At our school, our laptop cart actually has built-in little cameras. So students were able to shoot some video right from the laptop that they needed, and they didn't even have to have other devices. And of course, we had to try to make it quiet in the classroom where they'd have to go to different sites to shoot their video. And it was really neat that they could use the cameras that were built right into the laptops. And not to say our laptops are really new or anything, but we were able to do a lot with what we had in the classroom. So I'm sure some students might even have like iPods with the camera, their own devices, and depending on your policies, you could use those devices to upload video really quickly. So this is what the editing platform looks like, and there's different ways to get into this. So if you're feeling very uncomfortable, there's a storyboard view. If you're a little bit more comfortable, this is the timeline view. And if you have students that are really tech savvy, they can use the advanced view, and it plays just like iMovie would or Movie Maker. And I think it's just incredible because they can upload music that they like. There's lots of music already built in, tons of transitions, and grabbing images is quite easy if they can just upload them from different Google searches that they do, or if they have pictures of their own. So I think it's just an incredible tool, and I can't believe that it's free. I'm hoping that they don't change that anytime soon because my students are loving it. So what I had them do was we took, as we were just exploring that Piktochart, and they created a how-to video. So they could use what they did in the Piktochart if they liked, or I thought it would be really exciting to focus on our novel Crab. This is my 4C class, just most recently used WeVideo. So in the story, the boy is trying to survive in the wild. So I asked them to try to create a video of how to survive in the wild, and some amazing videos were created. Some of the boys just absolutely loved this. They went out and shot video in the wild, or well, in nature. And over the weekend, they went and shot video, and I didn't ask them to do that, and they had so much fun just coming up with this how to survive in the wild, because a lot of them watch Survivor Man and things like that. So this just went places I didn't expect. It was just incredible. But what was really neat too is that some people who weren't even comfortable with taking video created amazing videos on how to do like simple things. So I'm going to share with you some of the topics that came out of this. We have how to survive in the wild, how to make craft dinner, how to survive a plane crash, how to survive a zombie apocalypse, because of course zombies are all the rage right now, and how to clean a fish tank. And so I'd love to give you the opportunity to view a couple of these, and I think Louise might have dropped in the how to create or make craft dinner, and I'd love for you to watch it, keeping in mind that these are real student samples, so of course they come with spelling mistakes and things like that. The two boys who made this one were voted one of the top 3 in the class, and both of them struggle with definitely have some learning disabilities that they struggle with, but they created this video, and class went crazy. They loved it. So that's why I'm sharing this one in particular with you. So if you'd like to, I'm not sure if the web tour will work for me, so I'm going to let you go ahead and click on the craft dinner video. And when you're done watching, if you can just indicate with a check mark that you're done. So I see that Jenny has finished viewing. If when you're done, just come back with a check mark. And Jess and Louise and Jessica, wonderful. Okay, so I'm wondering what people thought about the video, if you have any feedback. Thank you, Jeff, that's awesome. So what you noticed, a very basic function of the video, they were able to pair images, sound, and overlay the steps. And so what I told them is they had to be able to show us the steps. That's what makes the how-to video most successful, right? So they had options. They could also do voiceovers, but these boys had a great time with the sound and the song, and they were able to do that, like I said, without having any real skill or knowledge of how to video edit. So they had none of that, and they were able to produce that video. So I was really proud of them. The second one, though, I'd really like you to see is how to clean a fish tank. And I think that just kind of got lost in our chat there, so maybe we could, I'll drop that back in there for you. Because this video uses all the elements that I was hoping they could incorporate and try out. So this is what is possible with WeVideo, and this is just one example of what's possible. There's tons that you could do, but the student whose sample you're about to watch used voiceover, video that she took, and also the music that was available on WeVideo. So she didn't even have to use an outside soundtrack for that, which you can do. But again, she had zero experience, but I think she produced a really exceptional video in the end with all of her own video. So if you want to go ahead and just watch that last one before we get some time to play, we'll have a little bit of time to maybe just check out WeVideo, but if you could go ahead and view that one, just let me know when you're back. Okay, so I see that Jeff and Jessica are back and Louise, and I'm just wondering if Jenny, when she's done, you can just give us a green check mark. Great. So I don't know if people have questions or feedback on what they saw, but that definitely incorporated all the elements. And again, the peer group voted her as one of the top 3 in her class as well. They really liked all the elements that she had in it, and that they think they could actually do a water change on a fish tank now. So I'm just wondering if people had any questions or feedback about that. I see that Jessica has mentioned that you're using Animoto. Funny enough, I actually included some samples of Animoto because I have used that in the past. And I find that one's really nice because it's for ease of use. WeVideo definitely takes it that step further. There's a lot more that they can do with it in terms of editing and having control over the creative process. So yeah, I think Animoto is also great. The only thing I found problematic about Animoto is with the education accounts, you end up losing them after a few months. So what I liked about WeVideo is that it's more permanent, something that they can keep. Because when I used Animoto, we lost all the videos after the semester was over. I don't know what your experience was like with the accounts. So thank you so much, Jessica. Yeah, book trailers, they're a lot of fun to do in Animoto, I found. Because it is that low risk too. It'd be neat to see what it would look like in WeVideo, I wonder, with the voiceovers that they might be able to do, or the the option of video. So what I'd love to give you an opportunity to do is to try it out, and or add it at least. If you go to wevideo.com, you can use your Google account, or if you're comfortable, you can add it from the App Store. So if you'd like to, I know we don't have a lot of time here, but if you just want to even just try to log in and to see what it looks like, they offer great tutorials if you are comfortable with using it, or if you wanted to dive into using it with your students. All of my students were beginners, and we all watched the tutorial videos that came with WeVideo. So did I have students make Piktochart as well as WeVideos for the how-to? Yes. So well, they had their Piktochart in place, so then that became their script really for their video if they chose to use that. Otherwise, a lot of them just left their Piktochart behind and they wanted to do the survival video. So you know, the zombie apocalypse one was popular, and so was surviving in the wild. So some of them just abandoned their Piktochart. They didn't want to do that. They wanted to change their topic. But you could certainly do it where you set it up where the activity went from Piktochart to how-to video. And it would be a nice script. They already have their rough work done for them, really. So I'm not sure if people are exploring right now, but I'll give you a minute or two if you'd like to try that out, and then come back for kind of final sharing and thoughts. The music is quite entertaining, Jeff. Yeah, there's a lot of funny stock music on there. The sound effects my students found to be hilarious, of course. Jeff has asked, how do you record the music? What we were able to do was that some of the computers had microphones that worked, others didn't. So we also had a microphone in our library that the students could book out. Students actually were also able to use their iPhone headphones if they had iPhone headphones, so because the mic on that worked perfectly. And once they hit the record button, it will create that sound file, and you can go back and edit if you don't like it, or cut down what parts you want to use. It will create separate sound files on the timeline in your WeVideo. And it was really easy to do. I actually have a sample one in there, how to train your dog, and you can hear the girls doing their voiceovers for how to train your dog. That's one of the samples on my Google Doc for today's workshop. So you can hear that they actually stop and record each of those pieces. So they're able to do little sound bites. They don't have to record all in one track. Fantastic, Jeff. So I think you're seeing the ease of use. It's nice. You can really do a lot with this and really quickly. Jeff's absolutely right in saying that they can upload the song that reflects the subject. Yeah, I could feel you could put some nice, if you're doing French, right, you could put some of the French artists in the song, and it would be really neat to personalize that project. So there's really so much. They can even record themselves. I think, you know, saying things in French descriptions maybe that go with pictures, or you know, doing little dialogues. It would be really neat to see. So if everyone's had a chance to play, and if you're okay with coming back, if you could just indicate that you're back with a green check mark, that would be great. All right, so it looks like everyone has returned, and I hope you had a good experience, a first experience. I know that Jeff seems to have had some luck there. Is there, did anyone else want to share their experience, Jenny or Jessica, whether in the chat or in the microphone with WeVideo? As Jessica's typing, I'm just going to comment on what Louise said. Louise, that's definitely what's driven me to use a lot of these apps, is that it is in one central location. I think it's really invaluable when you can make it easy for the students to access their information and go back to it, and it doesn't get lost somewhere in the shuffle. And what's great is, again, those are easy to embed into a website, and they were easily able to upload them to Edmodo for me to view and for us to talk about in front of the class. I could have it all shared in one area. It's really nice and easy, and the WeVideo takes care of publishing it, so you don't have to worry about, you know, how to do the publishing, or sometimes it's a problem when you're going from iMovie or Movie Maker. Jessica, if it is something you want to go back to, there's a lot of support on YouTube if you look for tutorials. It's you know, it's definitely one of those things that it takes a little bit of time if you're not really comfortable with the computer element, but it's worth trying out if you do want to create videos. It's something you can use in all areas. It's really, really great. And as Louise mentioned, I do get my students to always log into the web using Chrome. We have options at our school. We have Chrome, Internet Explorer, of course, or Firefox, but I always have them working out of Chrome, and it just makes it smooth because they can log right into their drive. It's actually, it comes up on the home page. Okay, so if people don't have any questions, I am going to offer this Padlet up as a suggestion if you want to. I know sometimes what happens is we leave these workshops and then the things kind of, we don't go back to the idea of sharing wall. So I'm going to offer that, but I'd love to offer you my Twitter handle, which is @ChrisRRodney, and I'd love to continue the conversation and learning from you and sharing with you. So if you do want to share some of your successes or talk about tools, and if you want to have any questions, I'd be happy to continue this conversation after today. And I really want to thank you for your participation on this Thursday night. It was really great sharing with you. So thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you so much, Christina. See a few more comments popping up in there. I just wanted to add about the WeVideo and the Mindmeister, and I did notice when I was pulling up some of those links and putting them in there, and I did comment in the chat that there are different versions for different tools. So if you're using an iPad, for instance, if you end up having access to different types of technology in the classroom, then there are other versions and ways that you can get it on there. But even if you're on an iPad, if you have Google Drive on the iPad as well, then having all those apps all in one spot might be handier. But if you don't have that, or you don't have easy access to Chrome in the schools, then there are other ways as well that you can access it. And so there are different links for downloading or installing the app into your browser. And I noticed that if you go to the Chrome Play Store, then that's the easiest way to get it right into your Chrome browser and into your Google Drive. Now, Syria, are you there still?
I am. Thank you all, and thank you so much, Christina, for sharing all your wonderful and useful tools and ideas, and of course being so generous and sharing your classroom-ready resources. It makes me wish I was still in the classroom so I could actually use some of your wonderful ideas. Thank you, Jeff, Jenny, and Jessica, for giving of your time tonight and participating and sharing your ideas. It's really great when there is that participation, even if it's just in the chat box. Please do take a few minutes to fill in the exit survey that Louise has there on the slide and give us your feedback. We certainly do read your feedback and use it to improve our program. Actually, we're in the process of finalizing our winter-spring program, and so if you have any ideas of topics and workshops that you think would be really helpful to you in your classroom, we'd love to hear about it. And do share the link to OTF Connects with your colleagues and encourage them to register. We've got 3 sessions next week, and it would be great to have a full house in each one. So thank you all, and good night.